The monks of the Shaolin Temple train intensely for decades to perfect their craft. As a result, Shaolin monks routinely perform superhuman feats of endurance, mental strength, and defy physics. Trust me, you don't want to mess with them, because these guys are some of the most devoted people in the entire world. In fact, most of them start training when they were kids, some as early as 4 years old. That's right, while you were busy climbing on the jungle gym in the playground, these kids were doing things you could only dream of. And there's no rest for them either. When the clock strikes 5:30 a.m., it's go time. Early morning runs are pretty much a given when you decide to dedicate your entire life to martial arts. And of course, you can't have Kung Fu without weapon training. These kids become experts long before even finishing grade school. And in order to do that, they have to wrap themselves in courage to endure. This dude suspends himself mid-air, only using his neck in a technique called turtle breathing. And I still have no idea how he managed to keep his cool while doing so. And this guy pulled a car using only his ear. I guess that's one way to back out of the driveway. Their minds are some of the deadliest weapons, and in order to keep that safe, they need to strengthen that too. And it starts with an exercise where they have to support their entire body weight with only their head. And it must work, because after doing this exercise, their heads become practically indestructible. Bricks, iron rods, you name it, and their heads can break it. But let's get back to the basics. The hands are one of the most important body parts to a practitioner, which is why they spend an egregious amount of time doing iron palm training. I mean, the goal is simple, turning their hands into literal weapons. With techniques that they've perfected throughout history, they can condition their hands to be able to deliver hospital. You'd think monks would be fine with just training their hands, but no, they need to train their fingers too. And they don't stop until their bones are literally unbreakable. And I really mean that. These exercises start with practitioners jabbing their fingers into sand, which is tough, but that's just the beginning. Because the next stage is only for those whose pain tolerance is set to the highest level. It's called the diamond finger, and it begins by bringing out a 150-pound machine that rolls your finger the same way Pizza Hut rolls out its dough. Other training involves punching trees with your fingers, and if I tried that, I might as well book an Uber to the emergency room ahead of time, because that's where I'm heading right afterwards. A standard push-up is too easy for them. Their fingers are so strong that they only need 2 of them to hold their entire body weight. Yeah, good luck winning a push-up contest against these guys. You know what? I don't think you'd be able to win a contest of any kind against them, especially when things like iron. Nope. Try again. They're capable of withstanding blows way stronger than that. In this test, a sledgehammer smashes concrete on top of his chest. And if a literal hammer isn't strong enough to leave a mark, then I don't know what will. I mean, after being hit this many times in the abs, it's impossible not to think this guy's a real-life superhero. Like, I don't know how they've managed, but these guys have somehow found a way to train their very own X-Men. Speaking of men, for most of us, if you get kicked in the crotch once, it's game over. And if we get kicked there again, we crumble into a million pieces. But that's not the case for them. Using some pretty unusual tactics, they figured out how to train their more sensitive body parts. I mean, I don't know how this guy's confident enough to just drive a steel cap log into his crotch, but props to him. I'm not gonna lie, this looks like straight torture. And I know, yeah, I'm convinced that these guys are in the business of making workouts 100 times harder. They're doing high kicks, flips, and they took a look at the human wheelbarrow exercise and were like, nah, that's not hard enough. Let's climb over some rocks instead. The same thing could be said about their ab workouts. Man, scooping water into buckets never looked so tiring. But it doesn't stop there. They even made somersaults more intricate. Please, somebody get this kid some ibuprofen. But your physical abilities will only get you so far in this kind of training. In order to make it all the way through, you're gonna need concentration. And that's not something that's easily held onto when you're constantly being bombarded with drill after drill after drill. Which means that these guys have to focus all of their energy on these rigorous exercises in order to pass them. They involve things like balancing on wooden logs, or while doing the splits. But if that wasn't hard enough, how about we make you hold buckets of water while doing it? But balance isn't the only skill they need to master. In fact, to pass this next exercise, they're gonna need their full arsenal of skills to be at their best. It's time for their final boss fight. This is a key moment for Shaolin Masters in training. Most of them have worked years to get to this point, and now they have to lay it all on the line against their fellow man. Every kung fu technique they've learned can be used here. It's crazy. I mean, watching them do their thing is like watching a real-life version of Street Fighter. But just when he thought you had him cornered, he finds his inner Super Mario and jumps up with ease. Because their training allows them to overcome any obstacle. You know what? I feel like these guys should start calling walls stepping stones instead. That seems to be a more accurate term for them. And this guy, unlike most of us, doesn't need a rope to climb up this mountain. With all that training, he's able to just waltz up like it's a casual early morning stroll. And let me just